السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. ربنا اغفر لي ولوالدي وللمؤمنين يوم يقوم الحساب برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. ربنا افرغ علينا صبرا وثبت أقدامنا وانصرنا على القوم الكافرين. ربنا هب لنا من لدنك رحمة وهيئ لنا من أمرنا رشدا. لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك إني كنت من الظالمين. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. وصل اللهم على محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه وأتباعه وسلم والحمد لله رب العالمين. آمين والحمد لله رب العالمين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. Inshallah, we will straight go into the verse that we studied up to, and here we see this chapter. Maryam starts mentioning about the story of Mary. The previous verses we studied were the preparations of our understanding or the way we approach to the stories of the Quran, in particularly to the story of Mary in the Quran. So now we will directly concentrate on Mary's story as it is densely studied in a very short way in the chapter which is called Mary. It is interesting that one of the chapters of the Quran is called Mary, the other one is called the women. So the Quran is very conscious of the honor of women. And another thing, which is not directly related to our subject, but we should refresh our minds that as the Quran sounds when we read it in Arabic, in its original language, and in its translation, when we read it, it sounds male-oriented discourse. But in fact, if we remember that the Arabic grammar is such that when a speaker addresses to an audience which is mixed of men and women, then the language, the grammar of the language requires to use the masculine form. That is just the grammar, not give the priority or superiority to men. But on the other hand, if a verse is addressed to women, with, again, according to the requirements of the grammar, Arabic grammar, men is not included, I'm sorry. Men is not included. That makes sense because the general attitude is speaking to men and women together in masculine form. And when women is addressed specifically, it must be separated and must be only for women, excluding men. So not necessarily that we should not necessarily wait that the title of woman or name of a woman need to be mentioned, but the form, grammar form, if the grammar form is feminine, and it is addressing to human beings, not the objects in Arabic, as it is in other languages, objects may be masculine or feminine, depending on the general usage of the language. But when it is specifically addressed to womankind, it is only for them. So speaking to women specifically, it means. So the Quran is, although sounds as if male, masculine or oriented, but it is not. So we have to be comfortable about it. That is how the Quran should be read. While we are reading, if the masculine form is used, it means women definitely included in it, not in an inferior position, not at all, human beings. That's what the Quran speaks to humankind. So the Quran says in the section 19, which is called Maryam, Mary in English, the verse 16, mentioned in the Quran the story of Mary. She withdrew from her family to a place towards the east. I think we, as I remember, we studied in other verses of the Quran previously related to the case of Mary, that she was in the temple. She was devoted to the temple by her mother, and the mother prayed to Allah, to God, that she or he, God, will give her a boy so that she will devote her to the temple. It means she will grow her or help her grow her as a member of the clergy. It means rabbi. But it turned out to be a girl. We discussed this. And she seemed to be disappointed because of her promise, not because of her giving or attaching superior position to boys or men. Because of her promise and out of her devotion to the service of God. Now, it means service of God's purpose. But the baby was a girl, and she devoted the girl, Mary, to the temple, but of course she kept away from the male population. Maybe she was the only woman, we don't know, doesn't matter. That's why she set herself aside from the general society. It means the society in general, including the men clergy or the population of the temple. Temple was in the center of the Judaic tradition, and it was really a sacred place, and Jewish people, the children of Israel, respected the temple a lot. So within the cultural environment, temple is the center of the social life of Jewish people. So she kept away from her family to a place towards the east. Even the close family members, she kept away from them. First of all, we understand this message of the Quran that withdrawing oneself from his or her, even very close family members, I am including even because of the context of the verse, Because if she withdraws away from her family, consequently, it means everybody else as well. But if the verse said she withdraw from the people, we may think that no, to the extent that from her family. But in this way, extremely strict way, completely drawing herself, pulling herself away from the society. Why is it important for us? I mean, knowing that Mary was somewhere in the temple towards the east. Okay. All right, what shall I do? Why does God tell me this section of the story? It must be related to my life. And we understand that withdrawing from the society is not the general advice of the Quran, and the practice of the Prophet definitely demonstrated and also encouraged people to live within the society. So what is going on here? We have to understand that maybe in Mary's particular case, as a person who was expected to educate herself in serving the cause of God, she might have preferred for her personal objectives to be away from the physical society. But the consequence of this attitude is a lesson for us, or an advice for us, that we have not physically, we have to withdraw ourselves from the society, not physically, but intellectually, emotionally. We have to be aware that what the society, the culture, the custom, the tradition, the values of the present day society, we have to keep ourselves away from the effects of these elements, cultural elements, the elements of, or the ideology of the civilizations, values of the civilizations that we are living in. We have to be conscious of it. At this stage, the word sharqiyan, it means towards the east. So we are expected to withdraw ourselves from the influence of the society values. Okay, but instead, what are we expected to do? So we have to turn towards the east. We understand that this word east and west in the Quran, although used with different words, but still the left side of the people, right side of the people, those people who are given their books from the right, from the left, and from behind. These kind of descriptions are not physical descriptions. We know that this is the methodology of the Quran, speaks in physical terms, but the message is to be drawn from the general teachings of the Quran. It means the words may be, as it is here, the east in English, sharqiyan is in Arabic, or the original Quranic language, should not be taken literally, because it is not the purpose of the Quran to teach us. For example, if we want to keep ourselves from the influence of the society, let me see where is the it will sound ridiculous, but where is the east of the society so that I will withdraw towards it. I mean, depending on how you face. If I face this way, east will be on my left. If I face other way, it will be just the opposite direction. So we know that physical east cannot be the the meaning of this message. We understand that Quran always speaks in a figurative way, uses parables, analogies. So we have to think that very different various means in order to convey the message. We have to understand it within our living conditions. So East always represents where the sun rises. It means the light comes to the world. So the light represents in the Quran the message of the Quran, the guidance from God. So it means she opened herself, her mind, her feelings, her spirit to the light coming from God. It means waiting, asking God's guidance. That's what we generally understand, but some other people may understand it in another way, depending on your living conditions. We have nothing to say. We don't say our understanding is the only understanding and their understanding is wrong. Impossible to claim that. Universal message must be understood within universal context. So within the context of the Quran, that was my conclusion. After studying many sources here and there, I said, okay, this must be the message I should learn from it. If I want to receive guidance, I have to turn my mind, my heart, to the source of the guidance, as my body turns to the light of the sun in order to get the guidance to live my bodily life. So in order to really have an honest, correct understanding of my usage of my heart or intellect, human qualities, I have to turn my human qualities to the creator of the sun, which enlightens my body. So the creator of the sun, who is God, and I would expect the enlightenment from him alone. I thought this way of understanding the verse, as far as practical side of it, now for me is really appropriate to the general teachings of the Quran. So I need to again repeat, the word literally says min ehliha. It means really from her family. But it doesn't mean necessarily within the context of this teaching at all physical withdrawal, unless it the conditions necessitated. There is certain certain conditions that, if needed, we have to keep the distance between the people physically as well. But it is not, again, I'm repeating, I know it is just a repetition of what we said before. It is not the advice of the Quran. It is not the practices of the Prophet. On the contrary, Quran emphasizes that God sends his prophets to the capital city of the people. It is a capital city, the biggest city of the people. That's why that time in Arabian Peninsula, the Prophet started practicing the message of the Quran in almost the biggest city in the area, later on called El-Medina. So, which is known El-Medina now. That is what we understand. Always the prophets are sent to the center of the community. It means the message needs to be dispersed, delivered to the most population people, where in a place where the population is densest. So there is no way to understand that we have to keep distance from this verse. We have to keep distance from the family members, including the society in general, physically, but emotionally, consciously, and intellectually, definitely we have to be aware of the influence of this culture or ideology of the civilization that we are living in. Any questions before I move to the next verse? Any concerns, any questions? So, while you are thinking, trying to understand, or waiting for further explanations, I will move to the next verse, which says, and secluded herself from them, separated from them, hijab. She put that secluded herself from, the word is hijab. Hijab means a veil. So I understand this, maybe in her case physically, but the message to us doesn't mean physically. We have to keep the distance consciously, deliberately, to protect ourselves, not to be under the influence of the culture, understanding of the population, maybe the values of the society, maybe values of the family, our family, and maybe the values that the society and the family have inherited from the forefathers, about which the Quran is very, very conscious and warns every people that they should be aware of not being carried away by the values inherited from their forefathers. What then the alternative? To understand, come to a conclusion, decide exactly what my own truth is. I can benefit from them, I can listen to them, but definitely not imitate them. Even my parents may claim to be Muslims. Fine, good for them. I have to have my own conclusion, whether rather than imitating the family heritage or family culture or custom, I have to be convinced what is right and what is wrong and make my decisions accordingly. We got it. And that is important. That's why the Quran almost repeats, although not the same word, but the same meaning, although she withdrew herself from her family is mentioned in the previous verse, in this verse puts even stronger language saying that she secluded herself from them by putting a veil between them and herself. Not a physical veil, so we have to understand. It means really, really making the distinction between what the society offers to us and what I should follow. That is essential. That is important to notice. So we then sent out our spirit to appear before him in the form of a perfect man. There are many, many different, various messages here. Then it is interesting to notice that, the language, because of the language, the translator said, we then sent out. No, only then, which is emphasized with the word fa in the original language. فَأَرْسَلْنَا إِلَيْهَا رُوحَنَا. So fa means only then, because of this, the result of this decisive attitude that I am going to develop my own understanding without being under the influence of anything outside. So I have to watch out. So everything must be my own decision. That is called belief. If something is not the conclusion of my own decision, it is not a belief. It is information, knowledge. I learned. Oh, my father, my mother, or in our society, whatever we mean by it, we believe that there is an hereafter, for example, after we die. Why? That's how we believe. Because we are a Muslim society. Okay, so the other people say, okay, we are an atheist society. We believe that there is no such thing. What is the difference? Nothing. It is equal. Because we believe there is an hereafter. We believe there is no such thing. And I follow what we believe. No. Belief is personal decision, conviction, certainty. This is what I concluded. This is my preference, and this is my belief. So this word hijab, putting hijab, the veil between them, it means not letting the outside culture infiltrate into my world. And the conclusion must be my own decision. That is why studying, investigating the message of the Quran as far as belief is concerned, not the practical matters, because practical matters are not a belief matters, the result, the fruit of the belief matters. Let me give a very simple example. If you really believe the constitutional value of a society, what do? You practically follow the law. which is practiced in the society and applied through certain departments, agents. And you say that any law which is according to the Constitution is welcome by me, because I confirm the constitutional values. So belief matters are the teachings of the Quran, which can be called and defined as constitutional values in this analogy. So if we understand that God is the one, the creator of the universe is the one, only the creator of everything, and nothing else has the power or authority to create, to rule out in the society. So my object of worship can be only this creator of the universe. In any case, whatever I do, even I have one drop of water, I will say, this is because of the will of my creator. This is what I believe. He is the one who created. I am absolutely sure, because nothing else in the universe can create this drop of water. So I accept, confirm that it is his gift, blessing to me, and I appreciate it. I am thankful to him alone, nothing else. That is what we have to have our own belief and practice it in this world accordingly. So he said, the verse continues, when you secluded yourself from the influence of the external society, then God said, okay, you are ready to receive now the guidance from us. And it continues, we then sent, and only then we sent our spirit to appear before her in the form of a perfect man. It means, now, there are different messages here. Only then the spirit, God's spirit, can appear to us, before us. So that the God, if you like, the wisdom of God says, now you empty your heart, your mind from all other false idols. It means anything that you can attribute to anything, any kind of absolute qualities. It means creatorship or ownership, and the source of existence, source of mercy, source of wisdom, nothing there. Now, if you like, the heart of man, the Kaaba of human body, man, is empty. Empty of false deities obtained or taken from within this universe. They are emptied. So what now fills up the Spirit of God? The Creator says, okay, if you like, using the language of the Quran, the throne of God, kursi of God, now is not occupied by any other agents, elements. Here we come. I can come now and appear there. It means I can send my guidance, my spirit to you now. You will be guided by my spirit. That's why the Kaaba is empty. And the Prophet Muhammad's aim was to empty the Kaaba from all false ideologies, representatives, understandings, values, whatever you can think of. So as Mary withdrew herself from including her family, everyone, and made up her own mind by herself. And now the Kaaba of the heart of Mary is empty. Now God can come and present himself to him. So if we want to receive the guidance directly from God, we have to take care of our responsibility first, which is to throw away, reject all false expectations, false ideologies, false ideals, false influences from our mind and heart. So only then God appears there. It means first we have to get the place ready, if you like. Then God comes. But if we fill our heart with false ideologies, expectations, wishes, etc., and thinking that this is also important, this God is the creator of the universe, but this must be so, this also must be with me, or I must have it, obtain it. This kind of considerations does not let God appear, or God's spirit appear in our heart. Mary's heart was ready. You remember that we have to, in order to reach belief, we have to conclude La ilaha. There is no source of existence within the universe. I don't know. The universe, any part of the universe, cannot be the source of existence of anything at all. So how come this word came into existence? Then God's revelation, God's spirit, or God's angel, that is the spirit of the message, or the message carrier, all the universe, and angelic side of all the universe is what? The Spirit of God presented to us. That's why angels only present the manifestations of the names of God to us. But within the conditions of this world, they are represented to us in the form of material things. For example, let's say a speaker wants to send you the message. What he does, he presents a video or a recording, voice recording, and sends to you, because the author of this message, or the source of existence of this meaning manifested in the universe, is a creator, not the created being, so that it will appear within the form of a created being, any created being. It is impossible by definition. God cannot become a part of a created being, because it is completely contradictory to human nature. It is an impossibility. I cannot become and have the quality of creator, and I cannot imagine that the creator has or appears to be in the form of a creator. That's why human actions are presented in, for example, in words by speaking. I cannot take the ideas in my mind and present to you because it is not a material being. So it's an analogy, by the way. And my thoughts are created, but material and immaterial, the difference, so that created and non-created, or the creator, this analogy must be applied to the difference between created and non-created existence or level of existence, state, or how do you say, the nature of existence. I cannot change my nature as a created being. I don't expect God to change his nature in the form of a created being. So I have to admit that he is nothing like this word, la ilaha. No deity in this world. No deity can be in the form of a created being. Even the angels are not deities. They are the meaning which addresses my spirit, and the material form addresses my body. So my intellect, my consciousness, my feelings can understand the meaning ingrained in the physical form. Any physical form has qualities, and these qualities are nothing but the manifestations of it is creator, it is maker, or in the language of the Quran, any art is nothing but the manifestations of the quality of the artist. But art manifests itself not in an heulah form, or I'd say as an image, but in the form of a physical being. That is called art. Anything is an art. Any quality manifested in the art is nothing but the manifestations of its creator. So these manifestations are represented by angels. Here it is also our spirit to appear before her means representation of God's reality to her through the representative angels, like the representation of God's power. That is a very essential subject in the teachings of the Quran. Representation of God's power, knowledge, will, wisdom, I don't know, mercy, designer, creating everything in order, perfect purpose, etc. These are all needs to be represented. This representation are presented to us through angelic side of it in a material form. Through angelic side of it in a material form. The simplest way of understanding this matter is while you are reading a book, you are interacting with the representation of the knowledge of the author, not the author himself, representation of the knowledge of the author in the form of meaning. But what you are interacting with is the physical form of a book. That explains everything perfectly. I love this example. I love the simile. It works everywhere because it is a Quranic word anyway, al-kitab. So when we read the Quran, when you come to the word al-kitab, the book, which means book, we have to understand in both cases, in the case of the universe and in the case of the written form of the message of God. Again, written form of the message of God, the mushaf, the book where the revelation is written on. So the book is different from the meaning we read in it. The universe is different from the qualities where we see, understand, observe on it. So we have to understand this ruhana, which is very problematic, and traditionally it is heavily debated on. My conclusion is, as I presented now, very simple, straightforward. It is understandable for me. So when I empty any idol in my heart, in my Kaaba, then God's names are presented to me through angels, and now angel appears in the form of a perfect man in front of Mary. Now, the meaning is written in a book, and the meaning is presented to Mary in the form of a perfect man. Now, I think we dealt with the first part, secluded herself from them. The second part, we then sent our spirit to appear before her. We are there. I think, done. So, of course, the most difficult subject to understand, what do we mean by God's Spirit? I mean, Greek scholars struggled about it. I mean, we say God's Spirit, it's easy to say, but what does it mean, God's Spirit? So our ruh, spirit, is also called God's Spirit from God. It says, the Quran explicitly says, we blew into the body of human being from a spirit from our spirit. How problematic it is. But if we understand it in the way that we discussed here, it makes sense to me. It is not complicated at all, although it took me years, if not decades, to understand and come to this clear understanding of angel. So it is very important, you know, that in the Quranic or the Islamic creed, belief after God, the second important article of belief is not believing in the prophets. No, you cannot believe in the prophets unless you are convinced about angels. What does it mean? Angelic side of the creation. What does it mean? Spirit of God manifesting in human being. What does it mean? If we don't deal with any of this, we cannot go into believing in the prophets, because what is prophet? Received message. What is message? If we don't understand the angelic side of creation and the messenger, well, come on, it's a man, who cares? And also, akhir, I don't see any sign. Where did they get it? Everybody dies and rots in the grave. All the rest of the items of belief falls apart. It becomes a blind imitation, narration of knowledge we receive from culture. But this story tells us we have to keep ourselves from the influence of culture and put a veil between us and the outer cultural influences. So why now? I think if it is, let me see. Yeah, we have time, so not 9-10 minutes, inshallah. So we will deal with the last part of the verse 17 in the form of a perfected man, basharan sawiyan. Sawiya means really to make it smooth, equal everywhere. For example, let's say if you have I don't know how to use it, a material which is not like material, not some of them are pointed out, other is not. I don't know the word. Crimble? Not a crimble. If somebody helps me, it's not like, let me show it, like this one. Yeah, not straight and sawi. It means perfect. So does anybody remember any word used in English? Yeah,
Are you thinking wrinkled?
No, write it down. I don't, if I don't know the word, I don't understand it. If you write it down, I will be very happy to read it. Ah, twinkled, yes, wrinkled. Yes, yes, yes. Thank you. I recognize the word now. Wrinkled. Now, if it is something wrinkled, if you put the iron on it, make it smooth and equal everywhere, it is making it sawiyan. That is the Arabic word. No, sawa, it means equal. It's everywhere is equal. Now, what does it mean in this context of the verse? Now, Mary is there. There is a man appearing, but in fact, it is the Spirit of God. It means God's uh, qualities are manifesting there. Yeah, it's everywhere. God's qualities are manifesting everywhere. So we can say that I am hungry, the dish is delicious, I am ready, it is prepared sawiyan. It means a perfect transition between me and the food. I love it. It is in the form of a loved being. You understand now? Now, Mary is a young girl, very young girl. Somewhere around, history tells there is no evidence in the Quran. Some of them said 14, some of them said 15, but very young girl. Of course, like everyone, she also has desire for the opposite gender. That is quite normal. Although she respects her chastity, she is the symbol of chastity for human being presented to humankind in the Quran, symbol of chastity. So she knows and acknowledges that her desires do not belong to her. That is what requirements of chastity is all about, or are this. The feelings, emotions do not belong to me. I am here to use them in the name of their owner, in the way their owner wants me to use it, in order to practice my belief that while I am dealing with these emotions, I have to practice it in such a way that each practice must represent my belief, my conclusion that these senses do not belong to me. So Mary is the symbol of this recognition of reality, human reality, or reality of being a creature. So she has the desire, and the angel comes to her as exactly sawiya, equal to fit her desire. Let's say what Mary is going to do. It's interesting, isn't it? So what she is going to do now? I am hungry, and the food out there is exactly I want, but the one who created hunger, I believe that I have to use this sense of hunger in the name of its real owner. And the real owner says, okay, if you believe that, in these worldly living life conditions, you have to put it into practice and practically also do it as I want, as I will. What is that? Use your chastity only within the limitations of your creator. It means contract, mutual devotion, no, not the right word, mutual commitment. I am going to unite my life with you, in the name of the creator of this desire. And how about you? The other person will say, I am also ready to commit to our intimacy in the name of the creator who created this desire within us. We will unite our life in the name of the creator, which is called act of marriage. In the Quran language, nikah. But people turn it into crazy ceremony. It is their own burden. They have to carry it. God says, I'm not going to give you any support. You have to suffer for it, spend a lot of the goods I gave you, and you will get no benefit out of it. Instead, you will lose your consciousness of making a contract in the name of God. You are making a contract with you between wife and husband to be wife and husband in the name of the appreciation of the audience present in the ceremony. That is an unforgivable, how do you say, deviation from the wisdom of Sharia, God's will, God's law. Unfortunately, it is very widely practiced in everywhere, including the Muslim world. It means we are not conscious of our spiritual needs. We are conscious only, or we are after the satisfaction of our caprices, impressing other people, how wonderful this celebration was, rather than enjoying God's presence in our wedding celebrations. And always remembering that these two units, men and women, are going to unite their life in the name of God. In the name of God. Let's see how conscious they are while they are signing the contract, if you like, deciding about the contract. While they are doing this, not following their ambitions, not following the ambitions of their family requirements. That is extremely important that we should be aware of it. So Mary is in this position now. Here is her desires. Here is a perfect fit for her desires, appear to be, because God is responding to her desires and sending the representation of his, God's presentation through an angel, making it appear in the form of a man. This is a miraculous narration, narrations of a miracle. Okay, in our life, we have to have the equivalent creation in our life. For example, I have a desire, or anybody else, for an opposite gender, and I found an opposite gender just fitting to my desire, exactly as I want. What should I do? Jump into it? No. Wait for God's permission. This is the way to acknowledge that this desire and whatever is going to accomplish or fulfill, satisfy this desire is also from God. Acknowledge it practically and do it in the name of God by obeying the will of God, which is contract. Mutual commitment, announce to the people, look, we are not doing anything secret at all. We are declaring that we are going to unite our life together in the name of God. Nikah must be done in the name of God. Again, I'm repeating this essential sentence. Nikah act must be done in the name of God, for the sake of God, not to satisfy the audience, impress the audience, spend a lot of things in order to show that how honorable family you are, how rich you are. These are all fake, satanic demonstrations. We have to watch out and wake up. This matter is really very important, as the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam says, "An-nikahu nisfuddin." The marriage act is half of your religion. We said, oh, that half of your religion, at least my belief in God. No. Practically speaking, half of your religion is your starting point of your family life. Uniting your chastity, your honor with another person, and uniting your personal secrets gifted to you by your creator with another person in the name of God, sharing it together only with the permission of God, in the name of God. That is why if a nikah is not performed with this consciousness, the root, the foundations of the family is established on rotten basis. That is why family lives always turn out into a disaster. God's mercy says, okay, you acted in order to impress your relatives, friends, neighbors. Okay, get help from them, not me, not from me. That is the wisdom of God. So what did she do now? Shall we? It is very exciting. Shall we stop here next week? The time is up. I have to honor your time as well, from 5 to 6. So she said what she said next week, to be continued. It is very important. Every word of the verses, every word in the Quran, but especially in the stories of the prophets, is full of wisdom, full of practical guidance. Unfortunately, in our tradition, the stories of the prophet were buried in history, unfortunately. Okay, we have to take care of our responsibility. I have many things to complain about it. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Subhanaka la ilma lana illa ma 'allamtana innaka antal alimul hakim wa akhiru da'wahum alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Thank you very much for being very patient with my never-ending speech, talking. And nobody today really contributed through writing anything in the chat box and speaking. But inshallah, I wasn't very boring. Inshallah, next week, next Saturday, next Monday, and next week on Wednesday, we will continue on studying the story of Mary. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi.